Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We started today's class by talking about the Shabad we were listening to at the beginning. Kab dekho prabh apna atam ke rang. The seeker is saying, when will I see God within myself, rather as myself, as my Atma? Kab dekho prabh apna atam ke rang. And then Swamiji shared a line by Paltu, a Pagat, who says, Paltu andhyari miti bati dini bad. That my darkness left when my diva with its wick was lit by the Guru. That's the only way that you can see Prabha Aparna Atam Kerang. The Guru has to give you clarity about who you actually are. And then finally, the poem Swamiji shared with us before they began, I paraphrased it. He resided in the temple of my mind, but I couldn't know him. He resided in the temple of my mind, but I couldn't know him. He was closer to me than my breath, but I couldn't recognize him. It is such a tragedy, a mountain of pain, that God was so close, in fact, closer than anything else, and I couldn't see him or recognize him or know him. The mandir, of course, they're talking about the temple of the mind. The outside temples that we go to or that people go to, they start off with the right intention, but very quickly they turn into something else. Mandirs of the outside fight with each other. My mandir is better. No, my gurudwara is better. My mosque is better. You're not allowed in. If you go here, you can't go there. This is not blah, 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 whatever. But the temple of God is actually that innocent, pure, and unsoiled mind. The temple of God is not made out of bricks and mortar. That's a symbolic version of it. The actual temple is within you. And the poem also alludes to, on my own, I couldn't know him. But the Guru told me that the Sakshi conscious witnesser that resides behind your thoughts and gives your thoughts existence. Think about it. When a thought arises or when a thought disappears, what space is it arising in and what space is it disappearing in? Don't you have to know that the thought came in order for the thought to even exist? If you don't consciously know the thought, then is there any proof or existence to the thought? Where does the thought come and go into? What's giving everything space to exist? That conscious witnesser is you. That's who you actually are, not anything else that's distant from you. The Guru says, close off your senses and go inward and search for this. Search for God. Sidh Gosht today is a conversation between Sidh and Guru Nanak Dev Ji, 6 questions that they asked, which are the following. Kitbid Purkha Janama Vataya. The Sidhs are asking, hey, true being, hey, Purak, how did you change the focus of your life? So very questions that are pertinent to our own journey. Second question, Kahe ko tujhe ehu man laya? How did you connect your mind to the one you were searching for, to God? Number 3, Kitbid asa mansa khai. How did you dissolve hopes of the future and desires of the mind? The difference between asa and mansa is the following. Asa means desiring for the future, and mansa is general desire. It's not time-bound. Number 4, Kitbid jot nirantar pai. How did you find the eternal continuous flame within yourself? Bin danta kyon khaiye sar. How do you eat iron without teeth? And finally, Nanak Sacha Karoho Vichar. Tell us your true contemplation. Share with us your true opinions on these questions. So the first question, Kitbid Purkha Janama Vataya. How did you change the focus of your life? Every person who has ever been enlightened or walked the path of enlightenment has had a moment of revolutionary transformation in their life, a moment that was so strong that it completely changed the direction of their life. And this has to happen to you, and it has to happen to you as quickly as possible, perhaps even now. What method do you what revolutionizes our life, turns us towards the truth with power and focus? What wakes us up? One of the sakis that Swamiji didn't share today, but I've shared in the past and is very, very potent in my opinion, is the saki of Gautam Buddha and the 4 sights that he saw. Gautam Buddha lived their entire life in luxury in palaces. And their father wanted to make Gautam Buddha so unaware of all the problems of life so that he didn't become a saint. They didn't let anybody in the palace have gray hair. There was no old person in the palace. The garden was tended every day so that there wasn't a single dead blade of grass, a single dead leaf or petal. And everything was always very luxurious and fresh and youthful. There was girls around dancing all the time. And Buddha was not allowed to leave, so Gautam was not allowed to leave the perimeters of the palace. But when he was 25, 30 years old, he was married and a child was on the way. The father thought, you know what, there's no way he's becoming a saint now, let him go. So there was an inauguration happening where all of the princes of the area were gathered and they were going to inaugurate something. They invited Gautam Buddha, who was the next in line to be the main king of the area, to come and cut the rope or do whatever. So he went with his charioteer on a chariot. And what he sees along the way is what wakes him up. The first sight that he sees a person that has like boils everywhere. The body is diseased. He says, I've never seen something like that. So he asks his charioteer. He was not allowed to say anything because the king's order was to not explain anything to Gautam. But still Gautam pestered and says, I'm commanding you to tell me what that is. And the charioteer says, that's someone who has a disease. They have leprosy or something and something. And Buddha says, does everybody end up getting diseased? And the Sadhguru says, yeah, most people before they, die, you get some kind of disease in the body. That's just natural. And Siddhartha is just a little shocked. And then he says, okay. And then he continues on because he starts to realize I'm also going to get diseased. That means. Second thing he sees an old man. And Gautam stops him again and says, what is this? And the Sadhguru says, yeah, after a certain amount of time, our hair gets white, our skin gets wrinkly, we hunch over. That's what we look like, walk slowly. And Siddhartha says, so everyone gets old and wrinkly and like this. And the Sadhguru says, yeah, it happens to everyone. Siddhartha thinks this is going to happen to me as well. Then he sees a person, a group of people that are carrying a dead body, and they're saying Ram Nam Satya Hai, Ram Nam Satya Hai, walking towards the funeral pyre. And Siddhartha asks, what happened to that person? Why is he on top of that thing? And the Sadhguru says, he's dead. That person is dead. And Siddhartha says, what does dead mean? He says, that person's no more. There's no more movement. He's gone. And Siddhartha says, that happens to everyone too? That happens to everyone. And then they say the fourth sight he saw was a man sitting under a tree meditating. The Sadhguru says, yes, he's trying to look for immortality. So seeing this, he stops his Sadhguru. And Siddhartha is in shock, complete and utter shock, that this life is actually meaningless. And the things that you collect, they're not going to stop these inevitable things of disease, old age, and death. It's not going to go away. This is your destiny. So he goes home, turns the chariot around, and it's at nighttime when he gets home, and he sees all of the ladies that dance in the morning and dance during the day, he sees saliva coming out of your mouths. He sees, that stuff that gets crusted around your eyes. And he's disgusted. He says, this is, you just perfume it during the day, but it's actually disgusting at nighttime. And then he continues to walk, and he's about to open his door to meet his newborn son, and he stops. And he says, if I meet him now, I won't be able to look for what I'm looking for. So he takes one piece of clothing and a jug for water, and he leaves. And he doesn't look back. He leaves and he searches for 7 years doing different things. He says, I have to find what the point of this life is. Otherwise, even the option of going back to the palace is disgusting to me. It's not fulfilling to me anymore. What am I going to do there? Just wait for me to get old, disease, and then die? What's the point of that? So you see, this moment in his life is so revolutionary that it's a quick turn. Most moments of quick revolution happen in high awareness. He was very aware at that moment, Buddha or Siddharth, and then he turned. Siddharth Gautam, his name, he turned into Buddha after enlightenment. Another Sakhi that Swamiji shared with us was of Vaijid, a Pathan. He goes to the jungle to hunt, and he sees the most utterly beautiful deer. And he's getting his bow and arrow ready, and he just stares at it and thinks it's so beautiful. He's so, when you see something very beautiful, your mind just stops and awareness starts to come in. He reached a point of such high awareness by seeing how beautiful the deer looked that he started shaking, and he started contemplating that if I don't have the power or authority to give life and beauty, then what right do I have to take it away from something? And he stops. He falls down there, he's shaking. And he has this powerful moment of realization, a transformation that I have to find the source of this beauty. I have to find what the point of this whole thing is. And I have to search for somebody who knows. So he went to lots of people, lots of, people that might know. And his thirst wasn't quenched until he finally arrived at a person whose name was Dadu Dayal. And he had that same heightened awareness vision again when he saw Dadu Dayalji. And he realized, this is my destination. He surrenders. And he ends up becoming one of the disciples of Dadu Dayal. The Dadu Dayal Sampradaya, Dadu Dayalji was he was a very sweet, gentle, but very clear type of being. He had over 150 disciples that all went on to become enlightened. Very similar to how Ramanandji had so many hundreds of disciples that went on to get enlightened, including Kabir and Ravidasji, who considered Ramanandji to be their guru, Satguru. So he sees this. The point of the story is that moment of awareness, clarity transforms your life. One of the sayings of Dadu Dayalji is, Dadu duja ko nahi, duja man ki daud. There is no second or other. The other is the running of the mind. The function of the mind is to create the other. Daud miti duja gai vastu thaur ki thaur. When the running ends, the other disappears. And the real target or object is found as it always was. You're going to find God, you're going to find yourself as you always were. In fact, many people that get enlightened, they write that I laughed at myself. I said, how much of a fool was I that it was right there. It was so direct and apparent and evident, and I couldn't see it. How many places did I go to? How much search did I do? Where didn't I search? And it was right here, so apparent and evident. And then another Sakhi Swamiji told us, a saint, they see a flock of birds flying. And this thing wells up inside them. When am I going to fly? And right in that moment, they go into Dhyan, and when they wake up, they said, I need to find the source of this. I need to search for how to fly. Your life here, coming to this class, is not for passing time. You need to have a revolution. You need to take a revolutionary step right now. You need to have a transformational redirection of your life right now, especially if you're young. Your life energies are abundant. Your impressions of the world are lower than those that have spent more time here. You have a higher potential of enlightenment to happen for you. You can become like Mira, Sahajo, Daya, Kabir, Ravidas, Buddha, Nanak, Kanaiya, Lena, Jetha. You can become like them. You have the same God potential within you, but you must take a direction, choose a direction, and go walk that way and don't look back. You have to have a transformational step in your life. So transformational things happen in moments of clarity and high awareness. So things that we tell you in this class are to start to increase your awareness. For example, something Swamiji told us was, are you living like a seed or like a flower? Seed, very small, very congested, very tight. Are you living in irritation, tightness? You're not blossoming, and you're feeling like you're not blossoming. You get up, you shit, you eat, you work, come back home, then you go to sleep. And you do the same thing every day. You hate hearing the buzzing of your alarm. You snooze it so many times. Is that the type of life you want to live? The things that you're pursuing that you think, Asa, that I'm going to get happy from this, is it working? And if it's not, and if you're living like a machine, you need to make a decision about your life that I want to live like a flower. I want to blossom. I want to get to the peak of what I can be. I want to be fragrant and joyful, to be joyous myself and give that joy out to others. So the answer to this question, Kitbid Purkha Janama Vitaya, was Satguru Ka Janame Gavana Mitaya. It was with the company of the Satguru that my life changed. And they gave me clarity as to what is worthy of going after and what is not worthy of pursuing. There is one birth that you get from your parents. It's your biological birth of the body. The second birth is from the Guru, and that happens upon self-realization. Baptism is not your second birth. That's the start, potential. But your second birth happens when you recognize yourself as God. Those people are called Dvij, or twice born. Dvija, Do Janam. And they're also called Brahmins. Brahman is that person who has recognized themselves as Brahm. When I became the Gurus, my life changed. Bhai Laina Ji's life changed when they met Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Bhai Amar Das Ji's life changed when they met Guru Angad Dev Ji, then they became Guru Amar Das Ji. Bhai Jetha Ji's life changed when they met Guru Amar Das Ji. Everyone's life changed when they met their alive master. Another Sakhi, I'm sure this is a metaphor very often used, even in the Western world, of the boiling frog, where basically there's two examples. One, you put a frog inside of lukewarm water and you start to heat the water. As you heat it, the frog doesn't move. It just says, okay, it's just getting warmer, and then it starts to boil and the frog dies. The second example is you already boil the water and you put the frog in, the frog jumps right back out and it lives. The way that you're living your life, are you just continuously making concessions? Oh, okay, let me just do this, then I'll get to Vaheguru. No, I just have to do this, then I'll get to Vaheguru. You know what? Look, this next step is only going to take 2 years. Let me do it, then I'll get to Vaheguru. What's going to happen is, actually, this metaphor is used to describe the failure to act against a problematic situation, which is going to increase in severity until it reaches catastrophic proportions and you have no way to escape. What your failure to act for your life right now is basically you making concessions to a problematic situation because you're not currently happy. And what's happening is you're dealing with it, And your life is going to come to a point where the situation is going to be too catastrophic for you to jump out of anymore. Your current place is the best place for you to jump out of. Waiting any longer and your situation might become too catastrophic to jump out of. Another Sakhi is the Sakhi of Swamiji's own journey. They were doing a bachelor in economics, and this was way back in the day, which, I mean, go to university so back in the day in India, that's a pretty big deal. So they had their last semester, they're about to graduate, they had 13 exams, 10 done, they had 3 left. And they sat in their room thinking, is this degree going to get me happiness? They said, no. They said, then why am I waiting to do 3 more exams? And then what they did was they took their books, they put it into the fireplace, and they left at midnight, not telling anyone. And they made a promise to themselves that no matter what I face on this journey, I'm not going to look back. And they faced a lot of difficult things on their journey. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I turned my head, oh, I met my guru right away and my life was bliss. No, it took them so long to find their guru first. Then they spent time with their guru. Then their guru had left, and then they spent time doing sadhana. Then it happened. But they promised themselves that I'm not turning back. And when you do something like this, the universe responds. If your direction is so strict and you're so resolved and focused that no matter what I have to face, no matter what I have to sacrifice, I am not stopping until I recognize the self. I'm not stopping until I meet God. The universe responds and they make it happen. Grace dawns. The Guru tells us the self is God. That's it. There is no other God. You, your very fundamental self, is God. Every other God are figments of your imagination. All these posters, these images that you see, they're figments of your imagination, and if not yours, somebody else's imagination that you start to believe in. Do you know that there's a reason why the clouds don't part, golden rays don't come, angels don't dawn, songs don't happen, and God descends? I mean, it's written everywhere in different languages. But have you seen it happen? Why doesn't it happen? Because it's not true. Because that's not God. The search for God is the search for yourself. You have to really invest in this question. Who are you? Who am I? All right, second question. Kahe kau tujhe eho man laya? For what did you refocus your mind? The Sidh is asking, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, for what reason did you refocus your mind? The answer is, Anhat rate eho man laya. I turned my mind so that I could have Brahm's experience. For Brahm's experience, I refocused my mind. I turned my mind inward because I fell in love with the sound of silence. Anhat, I know we always define it as the unstruck sound, a sound produced by not striking 2 things. In other words, it's a sound of silence. It's actually on inside of you right now. Everybody always has Anhat Nad inside of them. The problem is your mind is too loud to hear it. In meditation, it can happen to you when everything goes so still. The mind is so still that the experience is there is no mind left. Everything becomes so still, you can hear this. It's an experience that is translated as hearing, but it's not the way that we hear here. It's something else. It's a mesmerizing, intoxicating drowning into the sound. And actually, Om, Oang, Amin, Amen, these sounds that we produce with our tongue, they're modeled after that certain sound that you hear after the Anhat. They're not the same, but the best type of modeling that you can do. And when you experience it, it's ecstatic. It's a complete bliss. It's so intoxicating. It's so completely takes you over. And for that experience, because I love that experience, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, I refocused my mind because I wanted that. I turned my mind because I wanted to experience Brahm. I want to experience the truth. Brahmakar Vritti. You can have Brahmakar Vritti in many different ways. One of them is using a mantra or mantra, and the other way is to use a Mahavakya. In this class, you learnt about how the self is Brahm. So when you constantly you focus your vritti on something, for example, I am consciousness. I am consciousness. And you keep saying this. You keep saying this. You can close your mouth and say it. Your vritti inside will focus on something. And as it focuses, the target of the affirmation or the mahavak you're telling yourself, whatever the obstacle is, the avaran, it will break it. And what you're saying, you will become that. I am consciousness. I am ecstasy. I am ecstasy. You can even say, I am not the body or mind. I am pure consciousness. I am pure ecstasy. I watch all, but none can see me. When you say these things to yourself in this chintan, your vritti will focus on a certain spot. Or you can do it with the mantra, Ram, Ram, Ram. But the mantra has to know its target. You have to know what Ram is, or what Vaheguru is, or what Allah is, Govind is, so forth and so forth. And that vritti then breaks the final obstacle, and you become the thing that you're reciting. And so this Brahmakar vritti is what allows you to experience Anhatnath, experience complete silence, Sunya, Vaheguru, Chetan, so forth and so forth. Third question. Kit bid asa manasa khai. How did you dissolve your hopes and your desires? Asa means desire for the future, so we call this hope. I hope that I will be happy tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. I hope that this person, when I marry this person, or when I have this person, or my child, or this friend, or whatever, will give me happiness in the future. That's why I'm investing in it now. I hope that this house will give me happiness in the future, so I'm investing in it now. I hope that all of this stuff will help me in the future, but it never happens. Because more things pile on, and now you have more things. It's that frog that makes concessions and ends up dying. Mansa means desire. In general, it's not time-bound. So the answer to this was Mansa Asa Sabad Jalai. Like Krishna says in the Gita, Gyan Agni Dagd Karmani. Through correct understanding, clarity, realizing the nature of hoping, realizing the nature of desiring, seeing their futility is when they get burnt up. You no longer want it. It's when you get the Guru's teaching, the Shabad. First, the Guru's teaching, the Guru's presence helps you hone your Vivek. Vivek is clarity and seeing things correctly, not seeing things through somebody else's or society's bias, very correctly as they are. That leads to Vairag, natural detachment. And then once the Guru helps you hone them, you end up using these things that you've honed, Vivek and Vairag, to then continue listening to the Guru. It's like a cycle. The Guru helps you hone Vivek, Vairag, Khat Sampati Mumukshata, and then you use these things to then further go deeper into the teachings and listening of your Guru. And it's actually really Vivek that's the most important out of the four. That is going to give you destruction. And it's not that your desires and hopes get destroyed. You get so distant from them that they lose their potency. If you don't pay attention to something for a while, it gets weak. It perishes away. So by the Guru's teaching, you don't even feel like paying attention to them because they're not going to give you the result that you think that they're going to give you. So you retreat. Then, Kit bid jot nirantar pai. Fourth question. How did you experience the eternal continuous light within yourself? Answer. Gurumukh jot nirantar pai. So Gurumukh means that you surrendered to the Guru, dissolved my mind. I know there's lots of things that are frustrating in the mind. Oh, I know this better. Oh, come on. I've heard this 1,000 times. Oh, I heard the Sakhi last week. All of these things that arise in your mind, that means your mind is still on. And what you need to do is look the mind in its eye and say, because of you, I haven't gained happiness yet. You can either leave right now or sit here patiently and listen. You have to direct your mind that way. It hasn't been useful to you and it doesn't know better. And just because it heard a Sakhi once doesn't mean it got it and started to do what the Sakhi was saying. You might have heard the Sakhi of Buddha and the Foresight so many times. So has it happened? Was it potent enough? Did it go in deep enough that that thing happened to you? That means you didn't listen to the Sakhi. Listen to it again. You have to direct your mind this way. Have you found the eternal flame yet? No, you haven't. So sit down and listen and be quiet. You have to direct your mind this way. Surrendering to the Guru, I dissolved my mind and I found the eternal flame. This eternal flame, this continuous light, this continuous onness is Saipam, is Sakshi, is me. I am that eternal flame. I am Saipam. I am Shambho. I am Swayambhu. All of these words are all circling around the same thing. I am the continuous light. And it's always found via the Guru, just like Kabir, he found it via his Satguru, Ramananji. Ravidas ji found it via their Satguru, Ramananji. And so it's always as a Gurumukh that you find this continuous flame. Fifth question. Bin danta kyo khaiye sar? The question is very unique. How do you eat iron without teeth? What it's actually alluding to is, how do you find God? Teeth meaning mind. Typically, when you want to eat iron, awkward thing, but iron is very hard. And if you use your teeth to eat it, your teeth are going to break. It's not going to work. So the actual hidden meaning of the question is, you don't eat it with teeth at all. You melt it with fire. Meaning, answer is, Tragun mete khaiye sar. If teeth are the mind, there's no way that the mind can figure out what God is. That's not the answer. The teeth are going to break. Using Gyan, you have to burn the mind. And what remains is going to be God. That's how you eat iron. So you can't find God with the mind. You find God by going behind the mind. You just forget the mind altogether. Tragun mete khaiye sar. The three gunas, Rajo Tamo Sato, everything is encompassed in these things. All objects that are watched in this cosmos and your body are made out of tamogun. Your breathing, your prana, your energies are made out of rajogun. Your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your decipherings, your contemplations are made out of satogun. These three guns make up the entire cosmos. The only thing that they don't make up is consciousness itself. Consciousness is the only thing that these three gunas cannot make. In fact, consciousness gives existence to these three gunas. So what are they saying? Tragun mete khaiye sar. I went beyond the three. Forget about finding God with the three. That's like eating iron with teeth. I just stepped one back and I forgot about the three. That's how you eat iron. And how did I step back from these three gunas? With Gyan. With the teachings that my Guru gave me, with the retreat and the meditation techniques that he gave me, I was able to eat iron. Number 6, Nanak Sacha Karaho Bichar. The Siddhs are saying, Hey Guru Nanak Dev Ji, please give us your true opinions, your true contemplations. And the answer is Nanak Tare Taranha. Even after doing all of this, the final destination, complete enlightenment, happens with cosmic grace. It's the only option. It can't happen via your effort, because if you're making effort, that means some of your mind is still there. And it can't happen via somebody else's effort either. So the only option is when you completely let go, there's an unseen force, an unseen dimension that allows enlightenment to happen. Because it can't be via you. You have to be gone. So the final destination happens with the grace of the emancipator. Tare Taranhat. Brahm, consciousness itself, breaks your final obstacle, and you become that consciousness. This entire contemplation that we've done today, Satya Vichar, the entire contemplation that Guru Nanak Dev Ji has given is a result of a very, very potent vivek, very strong clarity. Guru Nanak Dev Ji sees things exactly as they are. They're not biased by anybody. We have to have this in our life as well. If we want to come to these answers via experience, not just by reading, but actually experience them, we have to have that potent vivek and clarity. You have to ask yourself and make a determined conclusion. What is truth and what is untruth? What is eternal here and what is perishable? What is worthy of my time and energy and what is not worthy of my time and energy? I only have a limited amount of time and I only have a limited amount of energy and focus. Where am I going to put this so that I actually get something out of it? And then finally, Swamiji concluded today's class by the following. A saint asks, if you ask for the house of God, God has no house. If you're asking me for the house of God, God has no house. All I did was I turned around and I found that I am Ram and Ram is me. All I did was I turned around and I found that I am God and God is me. If you ask me for the house of God, God has no house. All I did was turn around and I found that I am God and God is me. So that's where we're going to end off today. Please forgive me for my mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.